when they should talk. And so now the parents get mixed messages. The mom doesn't even know if
had the nerve, the audacity to touch my motherfucking hair. Do not touch my hair.
Behind a 5-story apartment building, a body lay face down on the concrete. The woman's skin was bruised, one leg bent where it shouldn't bend. Her hair clung to her cheek, sticky from blood. She wasn't covered. She wasn't moving. She wasn't breathing. She was 33. She was someone's daughter, someone's friend. And she didn't fall. Not like that. Her arm was stretched out as if reaching for something. Her other hand was open, palm to the sky. Lifeless. A fly landed on her shoulder. The wind didn't move her dress because she didn't have one on. Inside the building, no window was open. But 5 floors up, the curtain on the corner apartment had stopped swaying. A man would later say she slipped, but there was no handprint on the windowsill, no shoes by the frame. Just silence. At 6:11 a.m., the city woke up. A neighbor stepped, outside holding a garbage bag. He stopped when he saw the body. He blinked, backed away, dropped the bag. His voice cracked as he ran down the alley screaming. When the police arrived, they didn't ask if she was alive. They looked once, then they looked up. Behind her, the alley stretched like a scar. Above her, 5 stories of secrets stared down, and all around her the city kept breathing, but she never would again. Her name was Tabitha Tanner. She was born on December 6, 1988, in the heart of Chicago, a city that never stopped moving. But while the streets outside were loud and restless, Tabitha's world began in a home filled with softness. Her mother, Antoinette, held her tight. Her father, Larry, kissed her forehead. The world, for a moment, was still. When Larry died, Tabitha was still small, the kind of small that doesn't understand why someone doesn't come back. But she learned how to smile again. Her stepfather, Ben, helped raise her. The house never lost its warmth. Tabitha wasn't just a girl who grew up. She grew bold. She had a mouth that didn't stay shut when things were wrong, and a heart that didn't stay quiet when someone needed help. She was the kind of woman who would walk into a room and change its temperature. She believed in healing, in rising, in fighting for what mattered. On Facebook, she posted videos, not for likes, but for truth. She told mothers to protect their kids, told young men to think beyond jail cells, told girls to speak early, love themselves louder, and never settle for harm in disguise. She warned strangers like a sister. She spoke like a mother, even before becoming one. Tabitha believed in better, not perfect, just better. She sold shea butter from her small kitchen, bottled it with her own hands, wrote handwritten notes. In each order that said, "Take care of yourself, you're worth it." She danced when she cooked, laughed when she dressed up, posted pictures in bright lipstick and tight dresses, not for attention, but because she could. Her body was her own, and she moved in it with pride. If people stared, that was their problem. Tabitha didn't hide. She loved kids, not just her cousins and nieces, all kids. She made videos about speech therapy for toddlers, warned parents not to leave children with just anyone. She knew too many people who had been hurt before they could speak. She wanted to stop that. She wore her voice like armor, but even armor cracks. Even strong women miss red flags when they're hidden well enough. Because while Tabitha was building something beautiful, something dangerous was watching her, smiling, hiding, and someday soon it would come close enough to touch.
when they should talk. And so now the parents get mixed messages. The mom doesn't even know if the baby needs to tell her something that's going on, or, you know, like, what's up. You have to start teaching them how to talk soon. And if they're not talking on time, welfare definitely offers. Get to your local welfare office and ask for some info. They offer free speech therapy, so please look into it. It is so important. Please look into it. Also, be very mindful of who you leave your kids with. Do not leave your kids with just anybody. You never know the message that they relay to them. Please. Thank you so much. God bless.
She met him like many people do now, through messages, emojis, hearts sent over glowing screens. His name was Tyson Tillman, 38. He smiled with his teeth and typed fast. He said the right things. At first he was gentle. He asked how her day was. He complimented her mind. He told her she was different. And Tabitha, the strong one, the vocal one, softened. She started replying faster, smiling wider, letting someone in. He didn't come off as dangerous, just regular. A man trying to make it, a man with charm and a calm voice. A man who wanted company, but Tyson Tillman was not a man looking for love. He was a man carrying silence like a weapon. What Tabitha didn't know, what no dating profile ever says, was that Tyson had been to prison. Not once. Not twice. 8 times. His rap sheet was long, and every page stained with drug charges. He had been in and out of the system since 2003, a cycle he never broke. He was not reformed. He was careful not to tell Tabitha about his criminal history, careful not to tell her he was already living with another woman. That this woman was not just his girlfriend. She was pregnant with his child. He lived a double life with ease. One moment, he was the man texting Tabitha, asking when he could see her again. The next, he was at home with a woman who thought she was his only one. He kept his lies separate and well-dressed. Tabitha saw the sweet side, the side that knew how to hold a hand and press send on good morning texts, the side that brought food, made plans, smiled like he had nothing to hide. She never saw the shadows behind his eyes. She never knew she was walking beside a man whose heart had been hardened by years of running, not healing, and by the time the truth would rise to the surface, it wouldn't come in words. It would come in silence and violence, and a window 5 stories high. But for now, Tabitha believed she was building something. She didn't know she was sleeping next to her ending. July 7th, 2022. A Thursday night in Chicago. Warm, quiet. The sky hung low and grey, and the city hummed beneath it unaware. At 10:09 p.m., Tabitha arrived at the apartment. She stood at the front entrance of the building on North Magnolia Avenue, 5th floor, apartment 5B. She had been there before. The place felt familiar now. The couch where she once curled up beside him, the kitchen where he laughed while frying eggs. The hallway smelled like floor polish and old secrets. He let her in. Inside, the lights were dim. Music played low. She took off her shoes, smiled. This was supposed to be a simple night. Maybe some food, maybe some wine. Maybe his hands holding hers longer than usual. She didn't know that in the corner of that very room, a baby crib had once stood. Tyson acted normal. He kissed her, told her to relax. They talked, they laughed. He touched her hair. She felt safe. They slipped into the bedroom, into the bed. But at 10:34 p.m., the doorknob on the apartment twisted. It didn't open. The door was locked from the inside. On the other side stood Tyson's pregnant girlfriend. She jiggled the handle, knocked, called out. No answer. Inside the apartment, Tyson froze. Tabitha sat up, confused. Maybe she asked what was going on. Maybe her heart began to race. She might have looked at him, waiting for a name, an explanation. Something to make sense of the sudden fear in his eyes. But Tyson didn't speak. The knocking grew louder. The woman outside began to cry, to yell, to plead. She knew she wasn't guessing. She knew. 10 minutes passed like thunder. Panic took over. Tyson walked around the room, pacing, thinking. He couldn't let them meet, couldn't let them scream, couldn't let his lives collide. In that moment, not as a man, not as a father, not as a human being, he made a choice. He turned to Tabitha, and somehow, some way, he pushed her. The window opened. The glass let in the wind, and in a single breath, she was gone. She fell, 5 stories down, skin to air, heart to terror, her body slammed into the alley below. No clothes, no sound. Silence followed. Inside the apartment, the knocking stopped. Tyson stood still. The world slowed. And a woman, a vibrant, fearless, living woman, had just vanished beneath his guilt. The alley behind the apartment was empty. Just cracked pavement, a broken fence, and the distant sound of tires rolling over wet streets. Her body lay there, twisted, unmoving, one leg bent at a cruel angle, her face swollen, her skin cold. No one covered her, no one called for help, and above, 5 stories up, the light in the window turned off. Hours passed. No sirens, no voice shouting her name, no arms to hold her. Just the quiet buzz of the city pretending nothing had happened. Then, at exactly 6:11 a.m., a man taking out his garbage stopped. His foot kicked something soft. He looked down and screamed. The police came fast. Yellow tape went up. Officers moved like ghosts, hands on notepads, eyes on the sky. A blanket was placed over her. Too late, they looked at the window, counted. 5 stories. Someone pushed her. That was the first thought. That was the only thought. No way she jumped. No way she tripped. Her body told the truth before anyone else could speak. Bruises, lacerations, a broken leg, a shattered rib cage. And her heart torn, not from grief. From the impact, she had fallen hard, fast, alone. Detectives knocked on every door in the building. Someone remembered a man named Tyson. 5th floor, room 5B. His name wasn't new to the system. They found him. Inside the apartment, he looked calm, too calm. He told them he didn't know what happened, that he hadn't seen anything, that maybe it was an accident. But his hands shook, his eyes darted, and when they pressed him harder, his story changed. He said they fought, said it got rough, said maybe she got too close to the window, that maybe her clothes came off during the argument, that maybe she fell on her own. The police didn't buy it. Then they found the cameras, surveillance footage from the building. It showed her arriving, calm, smiling, unaware, no bruises, no fear, just another night with someone she trusted. Then came the pregnant woman, seen pacing, knocking, crying outside the door. Then the fall, and then Tyson, the camera outside. The building caught him walking into the alley. He stepped toward her, looked at her body, paused. No panic, no shout, no call to 911. He looked and walked back inside, like nothing happened. That's when everything changed. That's when this stopped being a mystery and became a murder. They brought Tyson to the station before noon. He sat in a metal chair. His hands were cuffed. The room smelled like sweat and silence. The officers didn't shout. They didn't need to. They already had the footage. They already had the body. They just wanted the last piece, the truth from his own mouth. Tyson said it again. He didn't know what happened. He changed the story, then changed it again. He said she might have jumped, that maybe she was upset, that maybe she'd lost her balance. But the officers didn't argue. They let him talk. Hours passed. He asked for a phone call. They gave it to him. He picked up the receiver. His voice dropped low. Thought the room was quiet. Thought no one could hear. But a police officer stood behind him, still wearing his body camera. And Tyson, tired, careless, unguarded, leaned in and said, "I threw the bitch out the window." 6 words, enough to bury him. The officer heard it, the camera recorded it, the timestamp blinked red. That moment changed everything. It wasn't a theory anymore. It wasn't a maybe. It was confession, not in front of a judge, not in a courtroom, but in the cold air of a quiet police station, caught without knowing, sealed forever in video. Later, when the footage was reviewed, no one spoke for a while. What kind of man says that? What kind of man says it like that? Tyson didn't cry, didn't stutter, didn't ask about her. He just said it, like he was telling someone he dropped a glass, like she wasn't a person, like she was nothing. And that's when the officers stood up, that's when they walked in, and that's when they made the arrest. Tyson was taken from his apartment and led into a cold, bright courtroom. The judge looked stern, sitting high above like a guardian of truth. Tyson was charged with first-degree murder, a label as heavy as a mountain. The papers were stamped with a red "filed" that matched the deep anger in the room. They did not allow him to be free. No matter how much he whispered excuses, no matter how many times he changed his story, the judge would not let him go on bail. Tyson was told to stay in prison until the trial would decide his fate. Cameras in the courtroom caught every moment. News reporters listened carefully, taking notes as if each word could hold the key to another sorrow. The newspapers later shouted out headlines, but in that room, every sound was the quiet toll of justice beginning its slow march. The legal process started slowly, like a long winter. Lawyers, detectives, and many witnesses gathered their pieces of the truth. Every detail from that fateful night was brought into the light. It was not just a story about a broken woman and a cold man. It was a fight for justice for Tabitha, whose voice was finally being heard. And so the court began its work. A courtroom where truth and doubt mixed in the shadows, where the weight of the law would try to bring some measure of balance to a life lost. The community waited, hearts heavy but hopeful, for in that courtroom many believed a promise of justice might begin to mend the deep wound left on a city that still grieved. The alley where her body was found no longer felt like just concrete and brick. It became a place of memory, a place of pain. Candles lined the ground. Their flames flickered in the summer wind. Balloons in soft pinks and purples floated above. Handwritten signs, "Rest in peace, Tabitha. You mattered. We love you." People came. Some were family, some were friends. Others were strangers who had only seen her face on the news, but something about her story pulled them in. Women held each other close. Men lowered their heads. Children stood quietly, watching the grown-ups cry. Photos of her were taped to the fence, smiling, laughing, living. A small speaker played her old Facebook videos. Her voice echoed through the alley, full of fire and hope. Words about protecting kids, choosing healing, building stronger communities. Now they played, like whispers from a ghost, reminding everyone of what had been lost. Her mother stood there, barely blinking. Her hands clutched a candle. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. This wasn't just a vigil. It was a protest wrapped in grief. People talked, loudly, openly, about how easy it was for men to live double lives, about how women kept dying in silence, about how domestic violence doesn't always look like bruises. Sometimes it looks like charm, like comfort, like safety, until it's not. Someone started a petition. Others wrote Tabitha's name on signs and marched with them through downtown Chicago. Her death became a question. How many more? How long before we listen? News outlets picked it up. Social media threads grew. Hashtags bloomed like wildflowers in anger. She had been a voice for others. Now others were a voice for her. And in that neighborhood, the same street where she once walked, laughed, and trusted, people now spoke her name with purpose. Tabitha wasn't forgotten. She was the beginning of something louder. There are still videos of her voice online. Her words rise through static, calm, but urgent. She spoke about the children, about mothers, about danger that hides behind smiles. She asked questions no one wanted to answer. She told the truth before it became her fate. Now her voice lives. In memory, photos show her lighting candles at marches, wrapping hair into scarves with pride, selling homemade butter with handwritten tags. She looked right into the camera, not to entertain, but to teach, to shake people awake, to give love in a city where pain roamed free, and yet for all her strength, she couldn't outrun what found her. But maybe the story doesn't have to end with her fall. Maybe it begins with what we do now, because somewhere tonight, another woman is climbing the stairs to an apartment she trusts. Somewhere, a mother is ignoring her gut. Somewhere, a man is hiding the truth beneath a smile. And somewhere, another Tabitha is praying she won't be next. Her life was more than the way it ended. It was a fire, a warning, a promise. And now, it's a call. A call to believe survivors, a call to speak up when something feels wrong, a call to teach boys that love is not control, a call to stop asking what she was wearing and start asking why he thought he could. Her mother still visits the alley. The candles are gone now, but the crack in the pavement is still there. A scar on the city, but scars speak. So let this one scream. Let Tabitha Tanner's name live not only in headlines, but in homes, in laws, in classrooms, in whispers between sisters who choose to leave before it's too late. Her life mattered, and what we do next will prove if we listened. May her story inspire change and bring light to those in darkness. This is just one of many true stories the world tried to forget, but here